Oh shit, man.
We're on what episode?
This will be 4.
4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Making Lite with Brent and myself. We out here. Yeah, episode 4. It doesn't feel. I mean, also, we haven't even posted anybody else.
Yeah. If you guys are watching this, maybe the rest of them are up by now.
Please binge. Like, don't start with this one. Go back.
Tiger King style.
Yeah.
Watch all those motherfuckers in a day.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's exciting, man. It's fun being here, doing the pod. A lot of people want to be on.
Yeah, it's been much more like popular is not the right word, but like much more like popular on that side than I expected it to be.
Yeah, people ask about it more than I thought they would.
Yeah.
Well, for how much people talk shit on podcasts, you know what I mean? Everybody's like, we don't need more podcasts. Also, can I be on your podcast?
It's so true. And we don't need any more podcasts now that we have ours.
We don't.
We don't need any more. Everybody else, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, don't do it.
Don't do it. We were the last ones. We've reached the right amount.
Yeah, it's perfect now.
This is where we're at.
God, so much has happened since the last time we were on here. Tony Geist, I think, was the last episode. He moved away. He's gone. Broke down like halfway.
Oh, God. So the day we recorded so if you've already seen that episode of Tony Geist, that day we recorded, we had a little like goodbye sesh for Tony Geist, right? Where we basically just said goodbye and you know, just had a little goodbye session for him and whatever, and like had people over here, and it was fun. It was a good time. Actually, it was like a blast. I had a really good time.
Yeah, it was a fun night.
Yeah. And then the next day we went to Malvern.
Oh, bro.
That was a good show.
I forgot that was the day after Tony's going away party. It really was. It was the most fun I've had doing comedy since I've started.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
100%. Easily.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Props to Tyrell for
putting that
Tyrell
together.
Frazier.
Yeah.
for putting that together, because it was fantastic.
That's funny. Yeah. It was so dope. I was very worried about it because I was like, man, who knows how this is gonna go? You know what I mean? Like middle of nowhere, Iowa. Like not a very big town at all.
No.
You know what I mean, like I think if I was doing 60 miles an hour and there was no traffic, I could drive through that town without joking 2 minutes. Like
yeah,
like easily 2 minutes I could drive through the entire.
Did you say 16 or 60?
60.
Oh, way less than 2 minutes. Like I bet that town's only a mile wide.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it might be right.
100%. I bet
I think it's a mile long. It's like half a mile wide.
It's just a fucking rectangle.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It was when we got there, I thought the same thing, because we walked into the bar that we were going to be at, and obviously we were there insanely early, but there was like 4 people in the bar, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah, same.
And then what was her name? Judy? Is that who owned the bar?
I think so. Yeah.
I think her. Judy, if you're listening to this, you're not. Let's be honest. But if you ever listen to this, I apologize if that's not your name. But
yeah, sorry, your name's not Judy.
Awesome, and she kept saying, she was like, "Oh, this place is gonna be packed. This place is gonna be packed. Everybody in town's excited about it." And I was like,
when we got there, so when we first got there, she was like, "Oh, everybody's coming." Like I've talked to everybody. I was like, "Oh, cool." I was excited. And then like 30 minutes before the show, there was still nobody there, and I was like, "This bitch." I was like, she lied. I was like, "No," but
no, you know what? All those people did to her what they do to William Allen Watts. They made the appointment and they didn't show up.
Exactly. No, but everybody then ended up coming in, and it was like a packed house, and it was so much fun. I had a blast.
It was good, and they came to laugh too.
Yes, they were ready.
Excited about it. They didn't care what material we threw out.
Yeah,
they were
ready.
having it.
That's what I honestly was surprised by the most, because like of our group, I'm the most ethnic. You know what I mean? Like I'm the one or I guess I should say I'm the least white. You know, so like I know they're gonna like you guys. Like you guys are gonna do great. You know, but like sometimes I get worried, and that's not because they're gonna be like, oh, brown guy, I don't like him. But like my material sometimes is about that. So like sometimes they're like, oh, I can't relate. I don't know if I should laugh, and I was a little bit worried.
When you got on stage and said, "I'll be your Mexican for the evening," and everybody fucking started cracking
I was like,
up.
all right, let's go.
Yeah, I knew you had him right away.
Yeah. It was dope, man. I'm excited, and then we got some more dates coming up pretty soon.
Dude, let's talk about the fucking craziness that is that.
Yeah, I guess we'll kind of talk
the
about
past
that.
2 weeks, right? Like we were driving to Malvern, and when we talked about it, that we were like, oh, haha, maybe we should pick out a name for our group. Ha ha ha. Maybe we'll do this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
Like it exploded that night. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was nuts. I think that day though proved that we could definitely do it. Because like no one struggled, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not, and like we talked about this before about like throwing that word killing around. I won't throw it around, but like I will say like everyone did well. Like
no, you can say it.
Yeah,
you can say it, bro, because it was true, and I don't think I've had really good sets at open mics. I've had really good sets at shows, right, where I got laughs. All my jokes got laughs, right? I don't think I could say I've ever crushed. That night, all of us did. All five. It was so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a blast. And then we had David Cosgar to come as a guest for us that time, and he did well as well. So like it was just nice having a whole group of everybody that did very well and just having like a good show. You know what I mean? And then that I think proved to us, well shit, like maybe we can just start up a little bit of like just like a local tour where like we're all kind of it's the group of friends that we usually are with or making plans with at least. And then we're also going to be the ones who are going to go and share this like experience of like hitting different towns and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. And I guess these people got no idea what we're talking about. So me, Noe, Rachel Ware, Tyrell Frazier, and John Snyder have all kind of teamed up, and we're going to call ourselves the Just Relax Comedy Crew.
Yeah.
It's super exciting. We got done, and John Snyder hit the ground running, just started calling every bar.
Yeah, he's been an animal at like cold calling people and just getting people to be like, yeah, sure, I'll give you money.
Every bar in the Midwest. Yeah. And he's got us. I mean, I think we've got 6 shows lined up
at least already. Yeah. I think it's more than that now. But
and that's in like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, like barely. Yeah, since the last podcast, we've not only done that show, but now we've like made a like collective of comics, and then now we're doing like a little bit of a tour now. I guess we have a few dates now. So
yeah,
as soon as they're in concrete, we'll like let you guys know. Also, like hopefully we can get these videos edited soon enough to where they're gonna be out. I don't think they'll be out by the time we hit Yankton, but hopefully the next one after that, all these videos are out is the goal. So we'll let you guys know when where we're gonna be and when we're gonna be there, so that if you guys would like to come out and see us, you guys can.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. And I think it's super cool, being able to, it's something that we've talked about before, right? If we wanted to put on a show, where would we put a show on? And it's that those fringer, smaller towns that don't have a lot going on, that they could use some sort of live entertainment. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I say this all the time, and some people disagree with me, but like, I don't have a ton of interest in running shows. Like, I like doing shows. Obviously, I like being on stage, and I enjoy that part of it. But like, I don't like organizing a show and like doing, we're gonna do this every week, every Saturday, come out and come see us, or every 2 weeks. It's tough because like I feel like Omaha is extremely saturated with not only shows but like talent. Like, there's a lot of talent here, in my opinion. So like, I think it's tough when you're trying to compete all within each other, because we're all really just trying to be on the same page. And like, in my opinion, at least, we're all trying to help each other, right? So like, it's tough when you have a ton of shows. And in my opinion, that's why I don't have a ton of interest in being like, I'm going to put on my own show, because there's already a ton. So like, and also what's different about me that I'm going to bring to a show that's different? Like, I don't want to do some kind of fringe or like niche show that I'm not even that into. Like, I really just like regular, like bare bones shows. Like, you bring up the funny guys, they do the funny stuff, and then they get off. You know what I mean? Like,
funny.
Exactly.
That's all I need.
But like, and like, there's nothing wrong with like the niche stuff. There's a place for it, but there's already so much of it, in my opinion, here in Omaha, that I don't see myself trying to make my own show. And the reason why I enjoy doing what we're doing now is for that same reason, because we're not in Omaha, and also it is a bare bones show. You know what I mean? There's no like weird thing about it. It's just, opener, couple features, headliner, and then you're done. And like, I think that's like the best setup for, not the best, I guess, but what I like for a show. And it's simple. Like, you can take it anywhere. Like, anybody who's going to understand that it's just a comedy show. There's nothing else. Just come and laugh. You just got to listen. Where like, sometimes you got to know the rules of a show. You know what I mean? Or like, it's going to be like this, like this, like this.
Yeah. A couple of things off of something you just said. I think the first one is, not only, how many shows there are in town already, how many good comics there are in town already. Omaha's kind of slept on for its entertainment scene, but you've got the Orpheum, you've got Rose Theater, you've got, you got concerts coming through town, you've got big comedians coming through town, you've got shows coming through town. I mean, that Omaha really does have a pretty decent arts and entertainment just genre itself. So now you're not only competing against other comedy shows, but you're competing against that, and that can be hard too. And I think one of the biggest things that is such a pain in the butt for putting on a show, and what I love about the way we're going to do it is we don't have to continuously find comics to put on the show and hope they show up and hope they're okay. Hope they're funny, but also hope they're okay with what they're getting paid with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're going to travel from spot to spot, and so we're going to be consistent, and we're all on the same page. When we discussed, finances and everything, it's, everybody is in the loop on everything, and I think that'll make it a lot easier. And I don't have to worry about like you not showing up to a show.
Right.
Like we're all invested.
Also, the nice part about it being the same group of people consistently is that we're all going to be forced almost, or like motivated, I guess I should say, to write new material. Because like right now you get on a show once every like every month, maybe, if you're lucky. Like if you're a draw, even like they'll give you a show monthly, that somebody will book you monthly to do a show, but it's not super common. You know what I mean? Obviously, the higher level you are, the more you get booked. But like, I mean, like at our level, really, like it's not super common. So like, I think it's forcing us to run through material faster, because we're gonna, like, literally we went to Malvern, and that night we got booked to come back to Malvern. So like we can't run the same material. Like, yeah, it's a few months away, but you're not gonna come back and do the same jokes, because they're gonna, even if we do the same, even if it's 6 months removed, let's say, you're gonna come back, you're gonna start with your same jokes, especially if you've been doing them. You're gonna start them, you're gonna know them, you're gonna say them exactly the same way, and it's gonna trigger memories. People are gonna be like, oh, I remember this. Like, oh, or they might not remember the joke, but they'll definitely remember that they've heard it before. Yeah, so like that's not what you want to do. So it almost like forces us and like motivates us, I should say, to write more material and to write new stuff and stuff that's really funny. So like, you almost have not a deadline, but you have something. In my personal opinion, the way I see it is, I have something behind me now. Like, hey, you better come up with something. Like, keep it flowing, because you're gonna have an audience you're gonna return to, and they need to hear new stuff. Yeah, 100%. I think these shows are gonna help us with a couple of things. One, we're gonna polish very well, I think, as long as we stay motivated and we keep being hard on ourselves and watching our sets and being like, oh shit, I got to change this and that. I think some of these on the road shows are going to help a ton. When we put a show on, or we get booked on a show here in Omaha, now we can bring quality, right? As opposed to, oh, I've been working this joke at an open mic for 4 weeks and I finally got booked on a show, so I'm going to do it to see if it works in front of a crowd. Now when somebody books us on a show in town, we can bring the material we've been working hard in front of crowds and we've refined, and now we're giving that show producer a better product than we would have. Yeah, even locally, like you're saying, like it improves our presence in Omaha as well. Yeah, which is dope. And I think that's a big thing for me, is I want the Omaha scene to be looked at as like, wow, there's a lot of talent there, right? And so I want to bring my A game. And so if I get booked on a show that, whether it be in Lincoln, at Shits and Giggles with Hunter, or whether it be at Barnado with, oh my God, I just spaced his name. Mark. How did I do that? Mark, fucking Jesus. It's been a long day. Yeah. Yeah. But, any of those shows, like, I want to bring my A game for them. Yeah. And I think it'll help to polish up a little bit. But it also helps your odds of being booked again. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I just did Barnado this Sunday, which would be 2 days ago from when we were recording this end. And I had a blast, dude. And like, I had a good set, I feel like. So I'm excited. But I do immediately thought of myself, I'm like, I could have done this better. I could have done this better. Because being in a dope spot, the first thing is like, I hope I get asked to come back here. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's not only a cool bar, but like everything about it is nice. It's like an actual stage. You feel good being there. Mm-hmm. And when you have a setting like that, I feel like I've noticed, at least in the small experience that I have, that people are more willing to laugh because like, oh, this is a professional show. Like this is, people are here. Like, you know, they're showing us, or they're performing for us. And it was a dope spot, dope crowd. Everybody was like great. So like you're saying, like touring like that, or, you know, touring what we're doing, helps us, is going to help polish what we already have, so to make sure that we get asked to come back.
100%. And you're right, having, you know, with Malvern being booked again, like, oh fuck, I got to do another 15. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be a new 15. I can't take him the same 15.
Right.
And you know, that what I like about that is, you know, we can write, like, let's be honest, right? Like a lot of, you know, I did 15 at the last show. You know, if I sit down and I cut that, and I cut the fat out of it, and I make those punchlines faster, you know, that 15 probably comes down to 10. Okay, so now I've got a solid fucking 10, right? And then hopefully I get another 10 out of the next 15. Right. And then, you know, start using that to whittle down and really, you know, be able to say, hey, yeah, I do have 20 minutes, you know, right, or I have 30 minutes. Yeah. And not say, oh, I have 30 minutes
of like
15 of it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be that guy that says yes to a gig and then they're like,
under delivers.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's what terrifies me.
Well, that's what's kind of what I'm talking about too, when it comes to like being asked back. Like if you do that, let's say you're asked to headline a show and you're like, yeah, I do 30, and then you do a okay or like a trash 30, you're probably not going to headline that show again. You know what I mean? Like, or at least not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. You're gonna have to rework your way back up, right?
Exactly.
There's something to be said about being honest. Actually, Q and I were talking about that last night a little bit at the open mic. We were talking about, and actually Lavetti had posted something about it on Facebook too, about
the longest
like comedians and time. Yeah, the longest time and how much time do you have? And you know, I think the worst thing in my mind that you can do to a promoter is tell them you've got 20 or 30, and then stretch it to get there. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, that makes it look bad on everybody, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that was what Lavetti posted, is he's like, oh, I've got 30, and then somebody was like, oh, that means you've got 20, and he was like, no, fuck you, like I have 30. He was like, I'm honest with people, like I don't overinflate my number. And I think that's so important, because when people do that, now when you tell somebody you've got 15, they're like, oh, you got 8?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, and I don't. You know, and so people that do that, they ruin it. You know, they ruin comics in the mind of those bookers, and they're like, oh shoot, I'm going to take everything you say with a grain of salt. Right.
Yeah. So that's like, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's true. That's why it's like, it goes back to that, like the value of being able to get up a ton. And I think we were talking about this the other day too, because we all have different opinions when it comes to like, is it necessary to move somewhere to be successful, and is it necessary to do certain things? And obviously, I think the end conclusion, it's really up to you. You know what I mean? It's really like case by case. Like, I think the end conclusion is also like, there's no career path for what we're doing. So like, do what you're gonna do. You know what I mean? Like, just be smart about it. Obviously, don't just like screw yourself by putting yourself in a bad position.
Yeah.
But like, you know, just take chances. Like, you know what I mean? So like, but I think we were talking about New York, and the biggest draw about moving to a place like New York is that how much you can get on stage. Did I show you the spreadsheet that Zach sent me?
Oh, I was out there, bro. Remember? I was out there for that week and a half last year. Yeah, no, I saw it, man. I saw like, I was looking at all these mics, and I was like, Jesus, you know, 5-6 times a night. Yeah. As long as you're booking it around, you know?
Right. And I don't know that I'd ever moved there, but like, it's like, it's undeniable how much work you can get in. You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy.
But you know how you get around that? Doing stuff like we're doing, right?
That's
where
true.
We can get on
100%.
stage frequently, right?
100%.
Like, so that it's we're talking about how frequently can you get on stage, and in New York, obviously, you can do it a ton. But I was talking to those guys out there, and I was like, bouncing ideas off of them, and they were like, oh, what's your scene like in Omaha? And I was like, oh, there's probably, I don't know, 50 total comics, 20 or 30 that come around frequently, right? And they were like, oh, that's a lot. You know, how often do you have mics? And I was like, well, we got at least one mic Sunday through Thursday, and we can hit a double on Tuesdays if we want. And the one guy was like, shoot, you can get up 5 days a week with no competition? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, that's crazy. He was like, I almost would rather that because there's so many people here. He's like, it's just so much. He was like, I feel like it'd be easier to stand out. And I was like, yeah, I think there's pluses and minuses to both, because there is something to be said about what we talked about last night, where if you surround yourself with people that are better than you,
yes,
you're going to elevate
100%.
But I think that's what we try to do, right?
For sure.
There are people that we try to hang out with and just listen to. Like last night, I sat there and I listened to Rachel and Q talk for like 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And I was just like, oh, okay. And I'm like listening to what they're saying and talking about their sets. And I'm like, oh, all right. I'm trying to connect dots. And, I think it's always about trying to be better. And you can't be better if you're talking to somebody that's, we can bounce ideas off each other and get better, but like watching somebody else that's been there already helps. I saw I think it was on the Dusty Slay podcast, actually. Have you watched his podcast on how to become a comedian? And so Dusty Slay has an interesting podcast that he kind of goes through the steps. It's like 12-part series of like your first open mic through your headliner now. Tries to walk you through things, and he says try to always make friends with the group directly above you and directly below you. If you try to skip the group above you, that next group isn't going to want to help you. They're busy doing their own thing. But like the person that's right above you was just in your shoes and they're more willing to help. And I was like, oh, that's like an interesting thought process, right? So I don't know, I guess that's what I've been trying to do lately
I agree 100%. I don't understand for the life of me people who like burn bridges. And I understand that there's some circumstances that are out of your control, and that's obviously not what I'm talking about. But like people who almost seems like purposefully like start shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't want to get too into it, but like
it's a small scene, bro. You might as well just say their name.
No. I'm not doing that. No. But like, I don't understand the perspective of somebody to be like, I'm gonna disrespect this person, or like knowingly disrespect somebody, or to just decide that you don't care what they think of you for no good reason. Obviously, there's some people that are gonna be assholes to you, and you can be like, well, screw that person. We don't need to have contact anymore, which is kind of what some people have done, myself included. But like, I don't understand the people that start problems or that are willing to perpetuate drama. It's like, hey man, like we usually all have the same goal, right? Yeah. It's become apparent that not everybody does, right? Some people just like doing what we're doing just to do it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, if your goal is to be successful, quote unquote, whatever that means to you, then I don't understand why you would not do what like Homeboy's talking about in this podcast and like try to make connections and be friendly to everyone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's crazy to me how small the comedy world is in general. It's actually like it's a lot like the fight world. So I was I kickboxed and did MMA for a long time, and that industry seems like there's thousands and thousands of people out there, but it's a very small group. Like typically when I had trained out here for so long and then I moved to Denver, there were people that I bumped into in Denver all the time. They were like, oh, you trained over there, you must know this guy. I was like, oh, he was my coach. Like, what the heck? And then like you find all these like commonalities and people Well, when I moved here from Denver, I started my comedy stuff out in Denver. And when I started seeing comics in the scene, and especially guys that have been here for a long time, like Rachel and Bill Queen and all those guys, and I'm like, oh, I think I'll add them on Facebook, and I see that we've already got 20 friends in common, right? And those people are from Denver, and I'm like, wow, like comedy it seems like this vast expanse, but it's a pretty tight-knit community. I burn a bridge here. There's a very good chance that they know somebody in the city I'm going to go to next. Yep. And that person knows about it. And now I don't get booked on a show because I wanted to be a dick and stroke my ego. You know what I mean?
So on this last Saturday, Tyrell and I had the privilege of hanging out with Jason Regan. It was dope. Jason, I've told this to many people, in my opinion, one of the nicest guy, if not the nicest guy in the scene, easily. Like, he's a dope dude, right? And he's obviously a headliner, and we did a show in Grand Island. And on the way back, he was talking about how certain people, are willing to like burn bridges and stuff like that. And it just was very surprising to me that that's the case. You know what I mean? But again, to the same point of like, why would you do that? Like, every connection is a possible friend or possible opportunity. So like, don't treat people like they're just an opportunity. Obviously, like, be personable and be genuine. Don't be fake. But also understand that they could be an opportunity. So like, don't squander that, I guess is my point.
Dude, I don't feel like a lot of people really understand that. And it's what I call, so I was in sales for a long time. And so like, it's what we call getting it. When somebody, they just get it, right? And then a lot of times people either get it or they don't. And what is it, right? Well, it's relationship building, rapport building, how to deal with people, how to talk to them, how to make them like you, how to make sure you like them, like all that kind of stuff, right? And so for a long time, I don't have a college degree. Went to college to play football, got hurt, flunked out because of Halo 2, jumped into a community college, kept getting Fs because I didn't give a fuck. and then finally found something I liked doing. I went into nursing school and was doing well, and then took a job with Complete Nutrition as a manager for a store in town that was just opening up. And what's crazy about that is the guy that gave me that job I worked with at Shields. I didn't really know him that well, but he seemed nice. I talked to him every time he was around. You know, we became kind of work buddies. And then he moved to Des Moines, and I was living in Cedar Falls at the time. 2 years goes by. I'm at the bar. I'm working at Best Buy at the time, making fucking $9 an hour. And I'm at this bar, and I bump into this dude, and I turn around and I look at him, and I'm like, oh shit, Ian, what's up, man? It's the guy I worked with at Shields 2 years ago. He goes, oh dude, so good to see you. I was like, are you back in town? He was like, yeah, man, I'm opening a Complete Nutrition in town. He was like, oh man, I remember you used to like sales and stuff. He's like, you want a job? He was like, I gotta hire people. And I was like, sure. And I showed up at the store the next day. Nice. And I started a $40,000 a year job.
That's dope.
I mean, it was a huge increase. And every job I've ever gotten since then, other than when I was a medic down in Texas, was from a relationship that I built with somebody. And they were like, hey, I know somebody that knows somebody. And it's just like the amount of opportunities I've gotten because I decided to just be nice. Right.
Well, you know? Yeah, dude, like the last job I had, I was working at this automotive shop. It's a smaller shop, but it's very, very like profitable. Like they have a ton of work and they have a ton of business and they're dope. And like the reason I found why they are doing well is because the guy who was my manager's boss kind of like runs a store. He's like got an incredible mind for finances and for business in general. Like he has a degree and everything, obviously, but like he's just like I think he just gets it. Like I remember watching him. Like we have relationships with different places, different stores and stuff like that. That you know, give us either an account or we buy parts through them or whatever it is we do through them, or they buy cars through us because the shop sells cars too. So I don't remember the exact details of the circumstance, but I remember one time I walked into the office where they were and they were trying to figure out what to do with a certain customer that came in and said, I think it was he was going to need a little bit more time to pay however much he owed, right? But this was a company, like they owed a ton of money, but because they were like a fleet account, like they brought all of their cars through us.
Right.
So it was something like that, some kind of issue. And I remember him saying like, oh, it's fine. Like, don't charge him. And in my head, I was like, it was a large sum of money. And I was like, how are you just going to not charge him? And that's what my manager, I was like, well, why? And he's like, because we get X, Y, and Z things through them. So when we need a little bit of extra leeway room or we need more money than we can actually we need more credit than we have, he's gonna hook us up because I'm hooking him up right now. And sure enough, like a few months later, they came like, hey man, remember when I did that for you? And like he hooked us up. You know what I mean? So like that is the same way in life in general. You know, people like at the end of the day, every company has a human being behind it. You know what I mean? And like you have to know how to connect with them. And the same thing in our scene, there's really no company. It's just a human being. So like if you cultivate those skills to know how to deal with people in general, you're going to be successful in at least being personal with somebody. Like maybe nothing comes from it, but also you just weren't a dick to that guy. So good job. You know what I mean? Like you were just a good person.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Are you a reader at all? Do you like to read?
Yeah.
So the book that changed, I mean, it literally changed my life, I guess, that's so oversaid. But when I first started getting into sales, you know, you hear a lot of people talk about sales jobs and it's got a bad rap and stuff like that. And it does because there's bad sales guys out there that'll try to take advantage of you. But I had a really good mentor when I got in. And the skills that you learn in sales are so applicable in life, right? With even just making friends.
Right.
And it was this book. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's written by Dale Carnegie in like 1920.
Wow.
And it's still insanely relevant. Like I read it. I need to reread it for the third time because every time I read it, I feel better and my interactions are better.
Light flex.
I mean, kind of, but my thing is, it sounds right, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? It sounds like a shady book. And so when my mentor told me to read it, I was like, okay, I guess just gonna try to take advantage of everybody. But you start reading it, it's talking about like, hey, how do if I meet a stranger on the street, how do I open them up with a conversation? How do I get them to talk to me like I'm their buddy? Right. And that's my goal. Like when you try to sell something to somebody, the first thing you want is to win their trust and make them feel comfortable. Like I want you to feel comfortable with me because you're not going to buy anything from anybody. It doesn't matter what it is if they make you uncomfortable.
Right.
And so it was like simple stuff. It was like, hey, we talked about this the other day. I was like, just look at them and find something that sticks out. And if it sticks out, they did it on purpose, right? Like, I'd look at when women would walk into the store, I always looked at their shoes. What kind of shoes were they wearing? And then my opening line was always, those shoes are amazing. My wife would love them. Where'd you get those? And now we have a 10-minute conversation about where she got those shoes, how much she paid for them, everything like that. But now we're like chatting and now it's easy. Oh, hey, what'd you come in for?
Yeah.
What'd you need? Oh, I can help. Right.
100%.
But the same thing with meeting people, right? Like when I meet a stranger that I've never met before, shoot, I probably did it with you. Right. I was like, I need to find some common ground because I don't know who this person is. I want to enjoy their company. I want them to enjoy mine. So how do I figure out what they like? Okay, well, I'm going to look at you, right? You're wearing Nikes. You got a wedding ring on. You're married. I have a rubber wedding ring on. You have a real wedding ring on, right? Oh, dude, I've been looking for a new wedding ring. That one's dope. Where'd you get it? Oh, I got it from such and such. Sweet. How long have you been married? Oh, man. And then we start talking about our wives.
Right.
And then I find out you're into football and we start talking, it's just like, it's not necessarily sales. It's just, how do I get to know somebody without it being weird?
Yeah. Well, the first step and like, from what I understand, the first step in like being successful in a sales environment is to build a relationship. So all you're doing is you're building a relationship and then just not selling them anything. You know what I mean? Like that's how you make friends. You just try to build relationships with people and then just enjoy the fact that you built a relationship.
That's exactly what it is.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's interesting. And like, but people I don't know, not everybody understands that. And also like, everybody's different, right? So like not everyone's going to be good at making friends. I have plenty of friends that are really good friends and they're only friends because I approached them. So like had I never approached them, we wouldn't be friends. But like I'm thankful that I approached them because they're great. You know what I mean? So like everybody's different, but I think especially in what we're trying to do, there is a huge value in trying to be like personable with people and making connections for sure.
Oh, 100%. And I think Lavetti talks about it a lot on his Facebook. Networking, right? It's like networking. And I think a lot of people like they hear that word and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk to people. Okay. Like, but I think a lot of people sleep on it. Like how much networking can help.
Well, I think people don't like doing it. It seems because even to me, it's a little that the term is a slight bit off-putting because it gives the idea that you're being disingenuous, at least for me, because networking seems like something you do to get ahead. Like, oh, go talk to these people. They own the company that runs our XYZ department, try to get friends with them so that we can get better or more money from them or whatever it is. And that's kind of like the aspect that comes from that, in my opinion. So I feel like certain people are like, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to, I'll organically get to know people. And like, yeah, dude, but that's also networking. Like you don't have to be in a situation of like you're putting on a persona to get something out of someone. Like you can just, networking is still just being friends with people. You know what I mean? Like when we had that thing the other day for Tony, like inviting whoever we did invite that day, that we don't always hang out with that much other than Mike's. Like my mentality when I invite people over is not, oh, I'm on a network. It's just, oh, I want to hang out with this person. You know what I mean? And like get to know them. But that in a sense is networking because now you're going to be cool with this person, whoever it is that you're invited or you're hanging out with. You're going to be cool with them and they're going to maybe think about you next time they have an opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that's you're 100% right. You hit the nail on the head. That networking does. It sounds like a shady sales term, right? It sounds like I'm just trying to get ahead, like you said, but it really is just about like, hey, I want to build a relationship. And also like, we need to find out about each other, right? Like I want you to know me because I might not be a good fit for your show. Mm-hmm. Right? Like there's a chance that we get to know each other and I like you and you like me, but the show you put on is for middle schoolers, right? Like you're doing entertainment at schools and stuff like that. Like at this point in my career, my comedy is not there. I can't do that. I'm more blue than I am white, right? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't pull that off. So it's like, cool. Now we know each other really well. But you know what? Now that you told me you run this show at middle schools, when we have one in Omaha, like let's say I'm in Des Moines, like now I'm going to throw your name out.
Right.
Right. And now I look good because I'm getting you a spot, but I also like have told this guy like, hey, like I've hooked him up with a good person, right? Like that itself is networking. Like, hey, I just helped you out. There was no benefit to me,
right?
But next time maybe they'll think of me, right? Like, yeah. It's all, if you can do it without seeming or having that at your heart, being disingenuous, right? Like that's the big thing because people can see through fake all day, every day. Yeah.
Well, the one thing that's going to rub people the wrong way, and I've heard about this like all the time, especially recently, is when you do somebody a favor and then you kind of hold it over them. First of all, that's just like a shitty thing to do in general. Like don't do that ever, like in any sense. But when it comes to what we're doing, it's even more common, it seems like, because if you put somebody on, right? Like let's say, for example, I was supposed to do a show this Thursday, but we're going to the Clash. So the person I was doing the show with asked me, hey, do you know anybody that could replace you? I could have easily been like, nope, I have no idea. Pick somebody. But no, I gave him a name, right? So I could very easily now be like, hey, I am the reason you're now doing this paid show. You owe me. You know what I mean? So like, but like that'd be really shitty. Like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And also that destroys relationships. Like what you're undoing what you just did. If you had just left it at don't say anything about it, just they know you did that for them and like just leave it at that, then it's gonna pay itself back. Like, or maybe it won't, but it's fine. You know what I mean? Like it's not, don't do it to get paid back. Just do it because like you're not a shitty person.
Well, 100%. Well, and if you lord that over them, right? Okay, they may hook you back up, right? But they're never gonna ask you for help again. And they will never help you again, right? Cool. So you got maybe you got hooked up with something out of it. But
right.
Guess what you won't ever get again.
Right.
Any sort of help or respect from that person. Like that sucks.
Yeah. Well, that's off-putting to people. Myself, for sure. Like when I hear about people that oh, I did this for you, I need you to pay me back. Even if it's not to me, if I did it to somebody else, to me that's extremely off-putting. Like, oh, I don't even want to hang out with you. You know what I mean? Like, So I don't know. I guess that's just some of the interesting part that some people don't understand about.
And it's totally okay to negotiate, right? So like it's, like let's say you're like, hey, I do know so-and-so. I'll tell you what, like I'm going to try to put in a word for you. If I put in a word for you, will you try to get me hooked up on your show or something like that? Mm-hmm. Like be transparent about it if that's what you want.
If
right?
that's what you want, be open about it.
Transparency is key. Like if I say that to you, I'm like, hey, I'm going to try to get you hooked up with this guy over here. Is there any chance you could try to hook me up on yours?
Yeah, I think transparency is key because you don't owe anyone anything. So like if you don't want to have to do that, then by all means be very clear. Like, oh no, I don't know if I can do that for you. I'm sorry, I'll just pass. You know what I mean? And it's much better to do that than to like have somebody be like, oh hey, I did this for you. You know what I mean? Like, can you do this for me? Like it comes back to the whole thing we're talking about the podcast. Like people wanted to be on the podcast. It seems like people do stuff for you so that they can then be like, hey man, can I be on your podcast? And like because they did something for you. It's like, oh, I thought you were just being cool, man.
I was laughing because we were literally just talking about like sometimes you got to tell people no, and that's not a skill either you or me have.
I'm terrible at it.
I'm so bad at it. I'm such a people pleaser.
I'm so bad at it. Yeah, I like it's because I don't know. I see the best in people a lot of times too, and I'm like, it'll be fine, and then it's never fine.
It's always not fine.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's dope. It's been fun, and it's the whole journey as far as comedy and everything. But something I was thinking about, what was it? I was trying to bring something up to you about writing jokes. What was? Oh, okay. So I was talking to our homeboy who we had on episode 1, Zach Bravietti. He's in New York now and he's doing his thing, right? And I admire that because it takes a ton of balls to just decide to do that, especially him by himself. Like anybody by yourself, it's tough, right? And like we said, it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. So like, don't just decide to move to New York. But like, whatever. But what I was talking about with him was he was telling me he noticed how a lot of his jokes that he was very confident in, he went out there and realized they still needed work, right? And like, it sounds like now he's made a couple of adjustments and he's starting to get where he wants to be. But one of the things that he pointed out to me was that in New York, they don't give you that opening line opportunity. So by that I mean, like, everybody has the thing they say when they get there, when they get up on stage, right? Like, I almost always be like, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Everybody feeling good? That's verbatim what I say every time. I try to get away from it. Like, I mentally, even on my own, I'm like, okay, I need to just say something different or whatever. But I sometimes feel like I shouldn't just rush into a joke. I shouldn't just straight into what I'm talking about, because people aren't paying attention yet. So I need to like warm them up. Hey, how's everybody doing? Da, 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 da. Okay, jokes, and then you go. But from what he's telling me, in New York, you don't get that opportunity. Like when or at least the places he's hitting, right? Somebody will go up and they'll start with, how's everybody doing tonight? And at that point, everybody was like, oh, this guy sucks. You know what I mean? Which is interesting. But I don't know. How do you feel about that?
It's really funny you bring that up, because Rachel and I just had a conversation about this 2 days ago. And it's because the guy who runs New Talent Night at Comedy Works in Denver put out a long Facebook post about he was like, hey, just some advice for people on New Talent Night. These are some things that we look for. These are some stats that we look at. He was like, you can't really keep stats at comedy, right? But like, these are some things that we can pay attention to see how sets are going. And the first thing he brought up was exactly that. Yeah. He goes, if you get on stage and you're like, how's everybody doing? Is everybody having a good time? Give it up for your host, right? Like, he was like, you lose the crowd. He was like, your goal is to get a laugh as fast as possible.
Yeah.
He's like, fastest I've ever seen is 5 seconds. Somebody got on stage, grabbed the mic, and in 5 seconds, there was a laugh in the room. And he, and it made a lot of sense, and that was why last night I switched up my intro a little bit. So instead of doing my whole, like, I got on stage and I say, how's everybody doing? And then I go into my intro about how I look. I just jumped into, like, I got on stage, I grabbed the mic, and I was like, hey, I know what you guys are thinking right now. What's Fat Charlie Brown doing on stage?
Yeah.
Right? And it got a laugh right away. And I was like, okay, like it made sense in my head. I was like, that's my job. Like, I don't have to suck the host off. I don't have to suck the crowd off.
You don't have to do anything.
I need to make them laugh. That's what I need to do. So it's funny you brought that up, because it literally there was in the span. I was watching this thread, because there was some parts in it came off a little passive aggressive and how he wants things done and some things that he looks at. And I watched the Denver scene come alive.
Oh, goodness.
And it went from, like, in the span of an hour, it went from just the post to the post and then 140 comments.
Jesus.
And it was so awesome to watch. Yeah. Also, pretty sure my headphones just died. So I'm going to jump up and go grab those. I'm going to swap those out over there.
Well, in the meantime, I'll give you my opinion while you switch headphones. I didn't know you guys were talking about that from what you just mentioned, but I do think it's funny, because I on my own have decided, when Zach told me that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make sure I start with a joke. And I didn't do it yesterday. I mean, I tried. I didn't do it great yesterday, but that is something I'm trying to do, where, like, I'm gonna start off by saying, or by having a joke right off the bat. Even if it's, honestly, I'm almost at the point where I'm like, even if it's completely unrelated to what I'm talking about, like, if it's just a quick one-liner that I think is funny, it's gonna lead me into whatever my first premise is, then I'm gonna try that, because I think it's gonna be successful in getting me a laugh. Are they dead? Unplug the cord and then try to turn them on. That on there. Yeah, I don't know. They're weird.
Good call. That was weird.
Yeah. But yeah, so, like, I'm trying to work that out. And it's funny that you guys mentioned that's hilarious. But that's one of, like, the new current goals that I have that I'm working on as far as my comedy. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try to open all of my sets with a laugh, like, as soon as I can get it.
They also said to reiterate your name.
Oh, really?
Because the crowd's not gonna remember your name.
Yeah.
You get on stage. The host said it. They're not going to remember it. But what you did at Malvern was the perfect example, and you did it by accident. You didn't even do it on purpose. You got on stage. You're like, hey, everybody, I'm Noe Ramirez, and I'm going to be your token Mexican for the evening.
Yeah.
And everybody started laughing,
big
right?
laugh right away.
And like that's exactly what that's exactly what you're going for.
You know what? I guess I didn't even think about that because I do that at shows. I don't do it at mics, I guess, and I probably should. But like at shows, I guess I have better things I can say. Maybe I don't know. But I think that's just a good habit to get into in general. To be like, okay, let's go like right off the bat. Let's go. Because also, what I usually do, what I struggle with here and there, because there's a mic in town that we're probably gonna do tonight, and it's tough to get the energy up. At least for me. Like I go there and I'm like, oh man, like I almost when I get there, I'm like, oh, I don't even want to go up. Like of how the room is. I don't know what it is, but it affects me personally that way. So I'm like, oh man, like I don't know what to do, and I struggle, and I know that it's my energy. I'm like, I need to have higher energy. But so what I'll sometimes do is I'll come in with really high, like, hey everybody, what's up? And it's genuine. Like I hype myself up to be that way, and it works. But I'm like in my head, I'm like, as I'm reading what Zach was telling me, I'm like, well shit, dude, nothing gets the energy up like a fucking laugh. You know what I mean? Like if you just crack a mean joke like right in the beginning and you have people going already, like your energy's already up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with you because at Gate 10, I'm the same way. So I like to think at least that my stage presence is halfway decent, and I'm usually pretty energetic. I'm moving around. I'm loud, obviously. And then I get to Gate 10. I get on stage and my hand's in my pocket and I'm just like, hey everybody,
I don't know, we'll see.
Here's my joke. Ha ha. Punchline. Ha ha. But you know what I've noticed has worked really well that I did the last time I was there, and we all kind of do it sometimes, it just depends who goes before us. Is it like at Gate 10, if you get on and you roast a comedian that just went or like has went recently that said something that was funny, even if it's just riffing off their joke, that gets people laughing. It's almost like a callback, really, right? You're just calling back to it. That gets people laughing too. And Gate 10 seems to be a crowd where they like to see us shit on each other. Yeah. At least the three people in the crowd that are at Gate 10 like to see that.
Last week it was deep.
Yeah.
Last week it was pretty deep.
They put those new booths in there, which was crazy. I walked in and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah,
in here?
my first thought was like, this is a terrible idea. And then like later the night goes on, it just filled in. And I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe it's a good idea.
It's like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come.
But yeah, it's interesting to see the way you gotta do things. And yeah, that's just one of the things I thought about. I was like, I am for sure implementing that. Like I've already decided to implement that. It's interesting that we've all kind of approached it the same way.
Yeah. And so like a few of the other things he talked about in that post, he talked about like laughs per minute and stuff like that, right? And that's so subjective because comedy is so subjective, right? Like, I think there's a lot to be said about, you know, and some of this might be me being a little biased, but I'm more of a storytelling comic, right? Like I like to tell a story with a big punch and some little laughs in there. And so there's something to be said about a setup that takes a little longer, but the punchline hits hard, right? But you got to lay some groundwork. And there's also something to be said about one-liners. But
what's the name of that guy? He's a comic around. He does Midwestern tour. He's like they call him the Raging Cajun. I'm gonna hear it.
As soon as you say his name, I'm gonna know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
but
one sec. I'll figure it out right now. He's a very popular guy. But anyways, the point of why I'm bringing it up is because he's one of those guys that, let me see, he tells like really heartfelt stories. Jason Regan again was talking about this guy, how he told a story. John Morgan.
Oh yeah.
Jesus. I'm sorry. You guys can't hear that, but it just exploded in
now. I can't hear out of either ear.
Hold on, I'm confused.
So deaf.
Did it record that on the thing? That's hilarious.
Oh fuck.
Hopefully it did. That'd be funny. But anyways, yeah, John Paul Morgan, I think is his name.
Yeah, John Paul Morgan. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that guy, I've heard stories from Regan that he'll tell a story about like his mom, and he's like, literally, it's at the Omaha Funny Bone. He's telling this story, and you can hear a pin drop in the room. He's like, I'm looking around, and there's women like wiping their eyes, like they're crying, like literally emotional, and then he just drops like a mean punchline about whatever, and obviously he's got his like Cajun accent, and that helps. But like obviously he's writing these jokes with that purpose, you know. So like there's like you're saying, it's very subjective when you're talking about laughs per minute. Like, are you a one-liner comic? Then yeah, maybe you're gonna get a laugh every 15 seconds. But like otherwise, you're probably gonna take you a little bit to build it up. Also, what's a laugh? It's like, well, I have a joke. I have a couple sets, like you've seen them, where I'll be doing the setup and I'm getting kind of like chuckles all the way to the punchline and then big laugh at the end. So like, I almost prefer to that than like big laugh.
So I think they are counting that, right? Like, like, but like actual, not pity laugh. Right. That's a real thing. We all know that.
Yeah.
But so I think they're counting that. And I think that's kind of what I like to do too, is I like to have like a good story that there's some like ha-has in there and then there's a big punch. But the other thing that I was talking to Rachel the other day, and the other thing I'm going to try to start doing is writing much more personal jokes. You know, I the jokes that I tell right now, you know, they involve my daughter and stuff that I've been through. They're all stories about me, right? But where does the real funny come from, right? If we're really getting into this, what this podcast is about, and it's about fucking pain. You know what I mean? Like, I need to start writing jokes. I was like, Rachel, you know, I asked Rachel, I was like, hey, what do you think I need to do? She was like, you need to be more vulnerable. People need to see that.
Right.
And I was like, I need to start writing jokes about my insecurities that we've been talking about recently.
And for those of you that don't know, Rachel's from the people in our group, and she's by far the funniest. Not only has been doing it the longest, but she's easy. Like, that doesn't even matter. She's literally the funniest without question. Which is why we ask her for advice. And also, even when we don't ask her, she still gives us advice.
She's going to give us the advice anyway.
But it's dope because it helps a ton.
Well, and so shout out to Rachel, by the way. She's headlining the next Barnado show in February.
It's exciting. That's exciting.
A 45-minute set. That's fucking incredible.
I hope she bumps. But I'm joking, of course.
I'm going to be in the crowd and I'm not going to laugh at all.
Exactly.
No, but I think that's going to be the next set of jokes that I really try to sit down and write, are going to be jokes about, I'm deaf in my right ear, right? Like 100%. So I got picked on for that in school. And, you know, I'm insecure. I have anxiety. Like, all of those things that, like, you look at a fucking bald white guy that's in his 30s that wears a fucking puffy vest and has earrings, right? And you're like, yeah, that guy is fucking an asshole. And he fucking watches QAnon. He's probably a Republican and he's way too confident, right? I'm like the opposite of all of that, right? Put on a good front. So I think that's going to be my goal, is to start writing some more like personal stuff.
Yeah, same here. And also there's a lot to be tapped into is the other thing. And I think for myself, there's a couple of subjects I was talking about with my wife that I want to make jokes about, but I don't think I'm ready to yet, because, and not even like on an emotional level, I just think a skill level. Like, there's such interesting topics and like serious topics that I don't think I could make a joke about it and be successful yet, because it just wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't be as funny as it could be if I just wait a little bit. And I guess that could be good and bad, right? Like, I could be wrong and be like wasting my time, and I should be trying to tap into these subjects. But also it could have turned out that I tried to make this joke and then there goes that premise, because I've already used it now. And not that you can't rework it, but I've already used it for the first time, and it doesn't go well because I wasn't ready to write that joke. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, at least for myself, the way I'm willing to write material, even when I'm reworking stuff, I don't like reworking things if it doesn't come naturally. Like this bit that I'm running this week, excuse me, I've been working on it for a while. Like, I've had it for, I don't know. It was one of the very first bits I wrote, and it did well when I wrote it. But it was, I could, when you have a bit that's doing okay, but you can tell it's missing something, and like you have, for whatever reason, you don't feel like figuring it out. You're just like, whatever, man, I'm just gonna stop. Like, it's not where it needs to be. I'm just stopping, and that's kind of what I did with that bit. It was doing okay, but I just stopped using it, and I wasn't happy with where it was. But then I was just sitting at home the other day, and I was flipping through some stuff, and I was like, oh, this is funny, and then I just reworked. like, and honestly, it came out to a new bit, but like I still have the same old bit that I can now use with what I wrote now, with the new stuff I wrote. But I wrote that new stuff because I was looking at that old bit, and it just kind of I wrote about what it's about, so now it ties in together. But it has to be, for me, it has to be organic. I can't just be like, today I'm gonna write about this and like write and go. Even my own jokes, like I have we all have lists, right, of like all the jokes we've written and like the stuff that's funny, the stuff that needs to be worked on. But even then, I feel like I can't just go in my notebook, pick a subject that I've written on before, and then just go. Like it almost has to come organically for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what helped me today? I added a couple of new tags to my children's museum bit, which has been going pretty well. I think I've got it pretty tight. It's pretty solid. I've cut the fat out of it. And then I was like, oh, shoot. I keep the entire thing clean, but at the end, I drop a hard cunt, right? And that gets a hard laugh.
Yeah.
But the whole bit is clean other than that. And I'm like, fuck, that is a Clash bit. Like, it's a bit that I need to use the Clash.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about, like, how do I clean that part up? Like, how do I say it differently? And so then I started thinking, I'm like trying to think of like clean humor. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's another tag there that I can add in an earlier piece of the bit, right? And I was like, oh, so I think I'm going to try over the next month and a half too to sit down and take some of my bits that aren't like raunchy, right? Because you can only clean something up so much,
right?
And just take some of my bits and go, okay, how do I make this like clean? Just to see if I can unlock a different spot in my brain where it's like, oh, hey, there's some ways to make this clean, but there's also some ways that you can make this dirtier,
make it worse,
and make it funnier, right? So I don't know. I think that's something that I'm going to try over the next month and a half.
For sure. Yeah, same. I have some, I want to do a Clash really bad. That's one of my goals, but I don't have anything that I think, and it's not even that it's not clean, because I don't cuss a ton in my comedy. Like it's not really like that, but I have certain topics that I don't know. I guess I'm also just trying to figure out what TV clean is, because I don't have a super good understanding of it. So it kind of makes me want like second guess all of my bits. So
I think a lot of your bits can be used at the Clash, right? Because like race is not a taboo subject when it comes to the Clash. That's a TV, like they talk about race on TV all the time, right? Even like marijuana and stuff like that isn't as much of a like hardcore no, right? If it's just like part of the bit.
It's more like explicitly sexual material, which I don't have.
Yeah, and like you're just dropping fucks and cunts and motherfuckers and shit, right? Like they don't want
which
that.
Also, I don't do that.
You don't do a lot of that. So I mean, I think a lot of your stuff could work. You know?
Yeah, I'm excited about this bit that I'm running this week, because I think that bit could be a good bit for the Clash, because it's organically written without anything dirty at all. So I think it's I've already thought of it organically that way, and I think it's funny. Like, I mean, it's funny. So I just have to continue to polish it, trim the fat, and then get it to work with the next part of that joke, which is a little bit dirty, but it can be easily cleaned. And I think that will be a good idea. The other thing that Jason was telling me is that don't write. He's like, when you're going to do a Clash, and this is just his personal opinion, obviously it's not a rule, but like what he's learned is that don't write 5 minutes of material for the Clash. Like don't even have 5 minutes for the Clash. Like you need 4 minutes, because people are going to laugh and you're going to have to pause. And he's like, it's always even better to come in before, like even if you don't do 5 minutes, if you do a really good 4 minutes, it's better than an okay 5 minute 1 second that's going to get you no points. Right. You know what I mean? Because of how that works. So I think that was an interesting point. So that's literally what I'm going to do. My plan is I'm going to just write like the hottest 4 minutes I can, maybe 4:20 the most, and not go in a second past that. And that's not even a joke. It's just the way I just got it like that. You know what I mean? Like I do this. No, like, no, but
I'm so funny.
Yeah. Dude, you know what though? Oh, okay, this is another good point that we can talk about. We were talking about this with Tyrell on the way there. Tyrell has gotten criticism before because he got off stage. He had a really good set. He got off stage, and then he was really excited because he had a great set, right? And then another comic comes up to him. He's like, "You're way too excited about your own jokes."
Call me Bert Kreischer, because I laugh at my shit all the time.
Exactly, dude. And that Tyrell made a great point. He was like, he's like, I think I'm fucking hilarious. If you don't think you're funny, well then maybe, you got to work on that. But like, I think I'm funny. And that's exactly kind of, I think, how you got to be. Like, obviously, we know people who are very critical of themselves, and that's fine. Like there's something to be said for that too, because I think there's people who will benefit more from that than from giving themselves credit. And I think it's best to find a safe balance, but do what you're going to do.
But I think both of us are super hard on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Which is why when we do a joke that we know we like and we know is funny, we laugh at it. Because I'm just like that's a joke I enjoy telling.
Right. Also, I'm not one of those people who's going to hold back a laugh. I'm sorry, but like I'll go to an open mic and I'll hear a joke for the 5th time, and if I think it's funny, I'm going to laugh. Like I'm sorry, I don't see the point in that. Like I know there's people who do that, who like, oh, they know your set already, so they won't even listen. They just kind of tune out and they won't laugh, or they'll hear something that's funny but they won't laugh because they've heard it before. I don't respect that, dude. Like if you do your joke in front of me and you deliver it well, it's gonna be funny. Like it's not like one of those things. To me, humor is like temperature, dude. Like if you come up to me for the 50th time and drop a cube of ice down my back, I'm gonna freak out every time because it's cold every time.
That's a good way of putting it. How many times have I watched William motherfucking Allen Watts tell his car salesman bit?
Yeah.
And I laugh every fucking time.
Yeah,
every
time. So like I don't get it. I've literally gotten called out from the comic on stage, like, you've heard this joke before. Why are you laughing? I'm like, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I'm laughing at your joke.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm letting you know you're doing a good job. Like, my bad.
No, I get exactly what you're saying, and I'm the same way. I just like I enjoy laughing. I enjoy being happy. I'm sorry.
It goes back to the point of like, if I make myself laugh, I'm gonna laugh. Like I'm gonna understand that that's funny.
Yep.
Because I'm not like, I know who I am. Like I know I don't need to like lie to myself of like, no, like you shouldn't laugh at this, or you've heard their jokes already, you shouldn't laugh at that. Like, no, dude, like I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I know who I am, so like I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna react organically every time.
You know what I have tried to be better at is not laughing at things that aren't funny.
Oh, I'd never do that.
So I am such a people pleaser that I will pity laugh a lot.
Huh.
I do it a lot. If I get uncomfortable when I feel it in my heart that somebody is bombing so hard, and then I will just laugh at a punchline that's not funny sometimes. But I've really tried to stop doing that.
You can lead people down the wrong way.
Yeah, you know where I'm going.
Oh, I'm hilarious. Like, you're on stage and it's just Brent's laugh.
It's just me in the background. And it's like this one. It's like...
Yeah.
It's that laugh, right?
They hear you laugh like that, and then in their head they do what I just did. Like, well, I do this.
This is what I do. Bro.
Yeah. No, that's tough. I try not to do that. I think I definitely have done it, but like,
oh, I'm so bad at it.
I'm at the point now where if somebody's bombing, I would rather you see me on my phone and like know that I'm not interested. And I'm not even trying to be a dick. I don't do like, oh, he needs to know that I'm not interested, I'm gonna get on my phone. No, I'm just like, well, dude, if I'm not laughing, I'm gonna do something else, because I don't want to have to like watch you bomb and then you make eye contact with me not laughing while you're expecting me to laugh and I'm not laughing.
Yeah, but the problem is in my head, like if you're on stage telling a joke and I don't laugh at it, like you're not gonna be my friend anymore.
Yeah,
like that's how my brain's like, if you don't laugh,
well, you know what?
If you don't laugh at Noe's with the Croy joke.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. You know what? You don't need unfunny friends. Okay. So like, just let them not be your friend anymore. That's fine.
No, you're right. You're right.
But I don't know. It is interesting. I mean, everybody has their own like personality, right, of how they see things. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's tough.
There's a fine line between confidence and humility, right? Like watching, like there's been a lot of times that I've gotten off stage and I was like, that went really fucking well. And then I sit down and I watch the video and I'm like, I'm so trash. Like,
yeah.
It's the one that I literally said went well. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh yeah, it got some laughs, but
you know what?
I pick it apart.
I've learned that it goes both ways though. Because, so for you who don't know, I mentioned that Grand Island show. I bombed on that show. And I consider it for sure a bomb because I didn't get the laughs that I know those jokes deserve. And it's not because of the room, it was on me. Like I 100% dropped the ball. Like I for sure, because and for whatever the reason may have been, I got in my head and I was like, oh, they're not liking these jokes, and then I just fumbled it and I got two in my head and I messed up, right? And in my head I was like, oh, that's easily the worst set I've ever had, right? Well, I went back and I watched it and it definitely wasn't the worst that I've ever had, but it wasn't good. It still wasn't good. You know what I mean? So like, I think it still does work both ways. Like you're going to watch your best set and be like, or what you think is your best set. And you're going to be like, oh shit, like it's not even that good. But then you're also going to watch your worst set and be like, it's not that bad. Like it's bad, but it's not that bad. You know what I mean? And I don't think it'll ever be like, let's say you're a person who's doing okay and you're getting consistent laughs, right? You're doing a set and you're always doing well with a certain set. Well, odds are that set's funny, right? Because like people are laughing on it. So like we can put money on the fact that those jokes are pretty funny. Okay, well if you do them in front of another crowd and for whatever reason they don't laugh, well then a mistake was made. But it doesn't mean you're not funny. You know what I mean? Now, if you're never getting laughs, like or if you're getting if you're getting the pity laughs that you're talking about, or like you go back and you watch a video and it's like a couple laughs but it's never a consistent laughter like what we're talking about, or like the bits never hit as hard as you think they should hit in your head, then okay, well then maybe you might not be funny, or maybe those, or not even you, but maybe like those jokes aren't funny. Like try again,
or the tags are wrong. Right? Like the premise is funny, but the tags and stuff you've added to it aren't. It's
that's
just
the other
working.
point. Thank you for saying that. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about, because everybody has a different way of writing jokes, right? And I've had people ask me for advice on like writing jokes, and not that I should be giving advice, but people have asked me. So I'm like, well, I'll tell you what I know, how I do it, right? And I give people advice. But I've noticed that not everybody thinks the same way, obviously, because I've given people advice of like, hey, what seems very obvious and simple to me, but to them it's like, that doesn't make any sense. How do you do that? You know what I mean? And like to me, but the way they write jokes doesn't make sense to me. So everybody's different, but like something I've noticed on myself, and I don't think he'll mind me mentioning it, but we were talking about this. I told Julian about it yesterday. We were talking about a joke that he's working on that he wants to get better, and I told him me and him are basically the opposite of how we write, because we start off the same. We think of a funny idea, we think of a funny premise, right? So now you have two funny premises, and what he'll do is he'll be like, oh, that's funny, I'm gonna say this and this around that, and then do it on stage. And what I'll do is, oh, that's really funny, I'm gonna say this and this, and then like when we'll both start off this, it will have the same result. Like he'll have not the result he wants, he'll maybe not get as many laughs as he wants, and I will also not get as many laughs as I want. And it turns out that he needs to add a little bit more, and I need to take some away. You know what I mean? Because like that's,
so you're writing everything that could be funny about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. So that was so when I first started really trying to write, like sit down and write, I was fucking Googling everything I could think, right? How do you write a funny joke? How do you get into stand-up? Anything I could do about joke writing. And one that I saw that I really liked was an article wrote by Judd Apatow. He's got a special on Netflix. It's pretty funny. Mm-hmm. But he's like talking about how he's done a lot of writing and stuff, and he's a list guy. And so you and me are pretty similar then, because like, you know, he was like, hey, make lists about everything you do. So if you want to think of premises, you know, start with a list about everything you don't like about yourself, a list of everything you change about your personality, a list of everything wrong with your body. And he was like, and then you'll find some things and you're like, oh, this seems funny. Okay, write a list of everything that's funny about that part of your body. Write a list about everything that's funny about that part of your personality, you know? And so that's, it's all literally just, I want to list everything I think could be funny.
Right.
And then just try it all out. See which one works.
But I think the key also is like being honest with yourself about what's funny though, because don't be married to anything, any idea, because that's the same thing. Like for example, I had somebody else ask me for advice, and I gave that exact advice that I need, because I noticed that I'm not the only one who writes jokes like that. So I like I said, I'll write too much, and then I over talk in the bit, and then it's not that I water it down basically.
That economy of words.
Exactly. I water it down with words, and then it's not as funny. Where if I would have used less words, it literally would have been funny, and that's all it is. But then the challenge is in finding what words to use, right? But not everybody sees it that way, because I've given that advice before of like, okay, we'll find the funniest part of what you have, take off the rest of the stuff, and then find what's funny about that, and then you have a bit. Like, for the most part, you know what I mean? You'll have something, but not everybody's willing to do that because they're like, oh no, but I think it's very funny this way. All right, well then do it. Mm-hmm. If you think it's funny, do it. And you know what's going to make you think it's not funny anymore? Bombing hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I think everybody's afraid to bomb. Like, nobody wants to bomb, but I don't think you should be like, it's the end of the world if you bomb. You know what I mean? Because it's just part of the journey also. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also if you're never bombing, you're not really trying.
Right. Yeah,
You're not trying new material if you haven't bombed at least a few times.
And also, like, the way it goes, like, you're eventually going to bomb. Like, you can't avoid it. Because let's say you avoid bombing for a while by just doing the stuff that hits. You know what's going to happen? That stuff's going to stop being funny because you only do that stuff. So what's going to happen? You're going to bomb. You're going to bomb with the stuff that never bombs. And then now what do you do?
At some point, you're going to bomb on a show, and you're not going to know what the fuck to do about it.
Exactly, because you're not going to have anything else.
It's silent, and you're like, oh, I've never experienced this before.
Yeah.
Shit, and then you start to freak out. Two things. One, you talking about the economy of words and taking words out and stuff like that have gotten, you don't say like anymore. I don't know if it's something you constantly think about.
I constantly think about it.
That's how I broke myself of the habit too. I used to do that all the time when I was doing like high school speech and that kind of stuff.
I still say it a little bit, but
yeah, but that little bit is okay. And there's some spots where it makes sense. Like, you can't not say the word like.
Right.
That is like something else, right? You gotta say it. But you've gotten, I just wanted to give you props on that. Like, you've gotten way better at it. And I know how hard it is to think about that while you're talking.
Yeah. It's tough.
It's so hard.
It's tough when you're trying to make a point. You know? You just kind of revert back to the way you talk.
Yeah. But the other thing too, now that we're talking about bombing and stuff like that, and your audience and things hitting that normally hit, but they're not hitting that night, right? Is I do want to get to the point where I feel like a lot of my material hits both sides of the aisle politically pretty well. Like, I tried, if I'm going to fuck with one group, I fuck with another group, right? Fuck with this one, I fuck with that one. I got clean, semi-clean material. I got jokes about my kids. I try to have like a wide variety of jokes because I think they're eventually my hope, right, is that term, know your audience. Mm-hmm. You can't walk in and know your audience, right? No. You can't walk in and see a sea of white people and be like, oh, they're not going to like race material.
Right.
Because they might fucking love it, like Malvern.
Exactly.
But if you get 2/3 of the way into a bit and you've said like 3 jokes about with a similar premise and the audience isn't laughing, I want to be able to shift and go, okay, yeah, I've got a set list drawn out, but the rest of the set list isn't going to work.
Right.
Now I can pull, okay, I'm just going to pull these other jokes out. So I know my audience. I figured out what they're like. Okay, I'll pull those jokes out instead. Yeah. And I'm nowhere near that point yet. Right.
No, yeah,
but,
same.
Talking about what happened with you, right? Where you were like, hey, I was prepared for this. And then when that didn't work, I was like, shit.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Which is exactly what would have happened to me. And that kind of made me think about the fact that, that's why we need to have such a wide variety of jokes. Just that way we can hopefully pull them out.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, that's the benefit, right? And I think it all goes back to how much you can get on stage and how much you're trying, really. Because we were talking about this last time too, about how I don't necessarily think, me personally, I don't view my open mics as performances. Like, I see it. The only difference is that, the only reason I still kind of see them like a performance to an extent is because there is people there, and you don't want to you do ultimately want them to laugh. That is the goal, right? To get those people to laugh. But open mics is where you go to do new material. So if you're going to open mics and you're trying new stuff, you're probably going to bomb a few times. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that you're not funny. It just means you're trying new material.
I view open mics, I guess there's 2 ways you can take it. Or I can say open mics are like football practice, or to me, open mics are like sparring, right? So when I spar, I'm going to get hit.
Yeah.
Going to get hit. But I'm going to try new shit. I'm going to work on stuff I haven't worked on, right? I'm trying to get better.
Right.
The goal is still to make everybody laugh. Right. And like at a place like the Backline where there's a good crowd, I want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
But I'm practicing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a practice. We talking about practice, bro.
Yeah.
And I think that not viewing it as a performance as much of a practicing, like I'm rehearsing this, and so I'm still going to do it with the same energy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to run a perfect play, right?
Right.
I'm trying to throw the perfect combo. But if I don't, it's okay because I'm going to learn. You don't want to learn on a show. That's not where you want to do your learning.
100%. The only difference I find between like a practice and an open mic is that people are still watching you. So like generally speaking, people don't watch football practices. They don't really watch sparring matches in a gym. And nobody ever sees that. You just do it for the benefit of yourself, which is the case with open mics. You are doing it with the benefit of yourself, but there is always people watching.
Yeah.
So like you do have to kind of please to an extent. You do have to perform. You have to do to your best of your ability, which is one thing that I've learned from that mic we're talking about K10, where sometimes you come into it with bad energy and I'm just like, I don't want to be here. I'm just going to get through the set real quick and be done. And then that's the reason why I don't do well, because if I would have just treated it like a performance with even the new jokes that I have, even if they're not completely fleshed out, I'm trying this mic, I'm treating it the same way I'm treating a performance in my attitude, not necessarily in my jokes. I'm trying all new material, but my attitude to it is like I am performing. Then I think that's like the sweet spot. At least for me, is like when it comes to open mics, is finding, okay, I'm gonna treat it as if I'm performing in front of a crowd. Like I'm gonna respect it, but I'm not gonna come in here with the jokes that I know hit, because that's not what I'm trying to do. The goal is still to make people laugh, but also the main goal really is to get better at these jokes that I don't know if they're ready yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you know what? You know how I view that crowd? It's your coach.
Yeah, well, that's true.
They're going to tell you if it's funny or not. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Your job is to run the play.
Yeah,
you're running the play. Sometimes it's a bad play.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So if the crowd likes it, you're like, okay, like there's something there, right? If they don't, they're like, oh, scrapping that play. I'm not going to run that. Intercepted, return for a touchdown.
Yeah, never again.
Not running that one again.
Yeah. That's a good point. Oh. Yeah, so it's just interesting. I mean, obviously everybody has their own methods. Like there's people who don't even do open mics anymore. We talked about, that's another thing we talked about with Jason, dude. Like now, odds are like people like me and you who were going to damn near every mic, right? And we're trying to write jokes. We're going to end up like featuring or open for somebody that's never done a single mic in their life. And they're just famous from TikTok. And now they have a following and now they're selling out the Funny Bone. You know what I mean? And like,
there's a guy coming to town.
There's a guy who just came to town.
Was it Ben? To Ben, I forget the guy's last name.
I don't know his name. I have no idea.
There's a guy coming. I don't think he's been here yet. There's a guy coming to the Funny Bone named Ben. I can't remember his last name, but I follow him on TikTok. Like I found him like a year and a half ago. About. He does a lot of like, he pretends to be states and does like a lot of political shit with the CDC and stuff like that.
I know who you're talking about.
But he's coming to town, and 100% that guy is famous because of TikTok. He's going to sell the Funny Bone out because everybody likes him. And then I watch his stuff, and he's good, right? But he's not at Jason Regan level. He's not at fucking Mark Norman level, right? But they've got that following, and that's where we talk about networking and putting yourself out there.
Yep, 100%. And the other thing too is, I think the people get this idea because, how do you make profit off of a TikTok video? Well, if you have a big following, you could sell tickets. I mean, and there's arguably very good money in that. Mm-hmm. So like, okay, you could do that. But I think in my opinion, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not at that level at either comedy or TikTok, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I think people see people like, I think Jason Banks is one of the guys who's on TikTok, but he's a comedian. Like he's a comic. Like I've watched some of his actual YouTube.
Funny.
Yeah. Some of his actual material is hilarious.
And his TikToks where he pretends to be the little kid. Yeah, that's who you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
He's the little boy and he was like, Dad.
Yes, exactly. He's hilarious. So yes, and I think not everybody always understands that. Hey, he was already a comic.
Yeah.
And like now he just has another platform. Same thing with like Tyler Walsh. Huge following on TikTok now, and he's funny on TikTok. Yeah. And then someday people are gonna see him on stage, be funny on stage, and be like, oh, he's doing the same stuff or whatever. Yeah. However they're gonna see him, and they're gonna be like, oh, I can do that, and then they go and bomb. And what I was just hearing about. Somebody that we know was both featuring and hosting for this person that was from TikTok, a TikTok person that got famous off of there, and they just bombed. Like they did so poorly that they got off stage before they had even handed the bills out. That's how early. Like that's way early.
No, that's so early.
You've ever been to the Funny Bone in
bills
Omaha?
out like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's like
early.
20 minutes. 20 minutes before the set's
Yeah.
supposed to be over, they hand bills out. And he got off stage and they weren't even done. They weren't even close to done handing the bills out. So now the show's over and everybody's still sitting at the Funny Bone an hour after the show is over paying their bills.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that just makes the Funny Bone look bad because they didn't structure that show right. And obviously they didn't know he was supposed to do more time. It's not their fault.
Yeah,
But people don't know that. You know what I mean? I know that. We assume that if somebody closes out early, it's like, oh, he didn't do his time.
He didn't
You know
do
what I
what he
mean?
was
Because
supposed to do.
the Funny Bone's not going to screw up. They're professionals. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's an interesting world we live in.
Dude, we're on such a roll. I hate to call this short.
I know we are going to have to cut it off
I got to get out of here, unfortunately.
because Brent's got a show.
Oh, it's fucking. I'm excited about it. It's like an improv show.
You're going to go pretend to be in a car or something or what?
I guess I'm gonna mime eating pancakes
Yeah,
for
there you go.
2 minutes.
That's funny.
It's an interesting concept. So we'll see how it goes tonight. So
That's dope. I'm going to hit Gate 10 and then I'm going to go to Lincoln.
yeah, I probably won't see you tonight. I'm gonna go to Gate 10 after the show, but you'll probably be gone before I get there.
Probably.
And really, is Jason hosting tonight?
I think Tyler's holding.
Oh, is he? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think. I don't know.
Cool. Well, hey, this has been a great one.
Hell yeah.
We were
Been a dope
rolling there for a
episode,
minute.
For
so.
sure. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you guys. We're gonna set it up so like you guys can send in like any questions you guys have as well. Like you can leave them in the comments in the YouTube as well. But I want to set up the email. We'll put it down there so you guys can send in questions too, like or what you want to hear about, or if there's any random topic.
If there's topics you want us to try to make jokes about, go ahead, like send it to us. Like that's the whole point of this podcast, and we didn't get in, so you get a pass. You get a pass to the next podcast on the homework that I gave you. I'm trying to make the dead child story funny.
It's tough.
It's rough. It's not easy. I've been trying for years, but if you guys have stuff that you're like, hey, I'm bummed out. This is something that's going on in my life. Make fun of it. Like we'll try it.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you guys for listening. Subscribe, like, do all of the things. You know what I mean? And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.